Hi, I'm Leela Oldenburg with Fairfax County Public Schools Transportation Training Center. Today's presentation is going to be on student counts and rollaway prevention. Safety is our #1 priority. We are committed to reinforcing safety rules and procedures for our drivers and attendants. The purpose of this presentation is to help refine and refresh your skills as a professional transportation employee. During this presentation, we will be discussing the importance of student counts and other safety concerns you may encounter during the loading and unloading process. We will also be reviewing the proper procedures for bus securement in hopes of preventing the unnecessary occurrence of rollaway crashes. We cannot stress enough the importance of bus securement. We hope you enjoy the following presentation. As school bus drivers and attendants, it is easy to become complacent as we become more experienced and skilled. We cannot assume that every day and every stop will be the same as the day before. We will begin with your student count during the loading process. It is the driver's responsibility to make sure all students are accounted for at all times. Students crossing the street must cross in front of the bus after the bus has come to a complete stop and the red traffic warning lights have been activated. They should be instructed to wait for the driver's signal when it is safe to cross. The driver should load all students from the non-crossing side first before giving the designated signal for crossing students. This should help make the process of counting students as they load a bit easier. When loading at schools, the driver must be in or at the driver's seat. It is important to count the students as they enter so all students can be accounted for should an emergency arise. The unloading process is as important as the loading process. When unloading, student count should match your load count. Students that need to cross when unloading should wait on the right side of the bus clear of the traveled portion of the roadway until all students have unloaded. The driver should check all mirrors and traffic. When it is safe, make eye contact with the students and give them the designated hand signal indicating it is safe for them to cross in front of the bus. Remember, when students are crossing, they should be 10 to 15 feet in front of the bus to enable the driver to see all students clearly. Students should also be reminded to never cross behind the bus. When unloading at schools, students should unload from front to back in an orderly fashion. Counting students during the unloading process at schools will ensure that all students have cleared the bus. However, the driver must still check the bus after each run by walking to the back of the bus after setting the parking brake. Proper securement procedures will be discussed later in this presentation. Expect the unexpected. Drivers should be extremely observant at bus stops. Always check the mirrors and surrounding areas for any late students who may be running towards the bus. Count the students as they exit the bus, making sure all students are well away from the bus before driving off. Use all mirrors to check the danger zones before placing the transmission in drive and releasing the parking brake to put the bus in motion. Check and double check. Watch for long drawstrings and loose clothing that may get caught in the handrail, fire extinguisher, and bus doors. Watch for students carrying loose papers and other items that can be dropped and go under the bus. As students attempt to retrieve an item that has been dropped, they may enter into a blind spot where they cannot be seen by the driver. Children should be taught to alert the driver when an item is dropped or lost around the school bus. We have discussed the importance of counting students as they load and unload the bus. There are also important safety concerns that can be reduced just by knowing how many students you have and where they are at all times. In the event of an emergency evacuation, by having a student count, drivers can ensure all students are safely off the bus. However, it is still the driver's and attendants' responsibility to check the bus after all students have evacuated safely. More children are seriously injured during the loading and unloading process than while riding the bus. Never take chances. Nearly 2/3 of school-age children killed in school bus-related crashes are killed outside of the bus. 2/3 of that total are by school buses. Over the past 10 years, an average of 11 children are killed each year by their own bus or other vehicles passing their bus. Young children are most likely to be injured because they hurry to get on or off the bus. They act before they think. They have little experience with traffic, and a two motorist will see them and wait for them to cross. They don't always stay within the bus driver's sight. You've heard me talk about the danger zone around a school bus a lot. What is the danger zone? It is the area on all sides of the bus where children are in the most danger of not being seen by the driver. This area is 10 feet in front of the bus where the driver may be too high to see a child, 10 feet on either side of the bus where a child may be in the driver's blind spot, and the area behind the school bus. Most students that are fatally injured are between the ages of 5 and 7 years old. They are hit in the danger zone around the bus, either by a passing vehicle or the school bus itself. Drivers and attendants should be thorough on a daily basis to ensure all students have been accounted for at all times. This will also help to reduce student injuries during the loading and unloading process. Following proper bus securement procedures is another important safety focus. It is imperative there is no movement of the bus during the loading and unloading process, and that the bus does not roll away when the driver is out of the driver's seat for any reason. Upon entering the bus for the first interior check during the pre-trip inspection, pull on the parking brake knob to ensure it is set. It is required that the driver apply the parking brake and place the transmission in neutral at all bus stops. This will ensure there is no movement during the loading and unloading process. This is particularly important when it is necessary for students to cross the street. Drivers have been trained and should remember to check that the parking brake is on any time they leave the driver's seat. For example, when checking the bus after each run, changing route cards, canceling the child check system, by pulling out on the knob to confirm that the brake is set. Take a few extra seconds to make sure that your bus won't roll. Pull the parking brake. When you leave the bus, it is mandatory that the air be pumped from the brake system, with the exception of fueling, to ensure there is no possibility of a rollaway crash. When parking the bus, pull out on the parking brake knob. Put the transmission in neutral, turn the engine off, and turn the key to the on position. Pump the brakes down until enough air has been released to self-apply the parking brake. This can be observed when completing the air leakage test during the pre-trip inspection. Push in the parking brake 3 times with the service brake applied to ensure enough air has been released and your bus is secured. If the parking brake knob does not pop out immediately after being pushed in, reapply the parking brake and then continue pumping the service brake pedal until this can be achieved. Remember to pull on the parking brake knob again when leaving the seat. As drivers, you have been trained to secure the bus anytime you get off the bus except when fueling. Examples would be leaving the bus during a layover, going to a neighboring bus, going inside a school building, or any time you step off the bus for any other reasons. In case of an emergency where the bus radio is inoperative, a cell phone may be used. When using a cell phone for an emergency, apply the same securement procedure as you would when parking the bus. As a reminder, cell phone use is not permitted in or around the vicinity of the driver's seat. Use the P-soup method to remember the proper sequence to secure the bus. Keep your foot on the service brake pedal and complete the following steps in order. Pull the parking brake knob out. Shift the transmission to neutral. Turn the engine off. Turn the ignition on. Pump the service brake pedal repeatedly to release the air from the brake system. When enough air has been released, the parking brake should self-apply. The point at which this occurs will vary from bus to bus. You should have observed that point while completing the brake test during the pre-trip inspection. Keep your foot on the service brake pedal as you push in the parking brake knob to check if it pops out. If the parking brake knob does not immediately pop out after being pushed in, continue to pump the service brake pedal until this can be achieved. Before leaving the driver's seat, pull on the parking brake knob. Every time you exit the bus, except to get fuel, follow the above steps to be sure the bus is properly secured. Adhering to FCPS policies and procedures will ensure a safe ride for students, drivers, and attendants. Accounting for all students can increase driver awareness and decrease serious student injuries. Bus securement is an important step in preventing movement of the bus during the loading and unloading process and for prevention of rollaway crashes. Pulling the parking brake knob and/or pumping down the brakes is all it takes to prevent serious injuries to students and damage to personal property. As a professional bus driver and attendant, by following the safety procedures discussed today, you can make certain that you will be the best you can be. Let's take a moment to review what we've learned. Question number 1. More students are seriously injured when riding the school bus. Is it true or false? False. Statistics show that more students are seriously injured during the loading-unloading process than while riding the bus. Never take chances. Number 2, it is only necessary to count the students as they unload the school bus. False. It is the driver's responsibility to make sure all students are accounted for at all times. All right, number 3, students should never cross behind the bus. True. When students cross behind the bus, it puts them in the danger zone and out of the driver's view. Number 4, when fueling, do not pump the brakes down. True. Do not pump the brakes down when fueling. This will allow the bus to be moved more quickly if an emergency should arise in the fueling area. Fueling is the only occasion air should remain in the brake system when the driver exits the bus. 5, when loading, the students needing to cross should load first. False. The driver should load students from the non-crossing side first before giving the designated signal for crossing students. 6, it is required that the driver apply the parking brake and place the transmission in neutral at every bus stop. True. This will ensure that there is no movement of the bus while students are in the process of loading and unloading. Number 7, drivers should look at the entrance door to be certain that arms, legs, backpacks, and etc. are clear before closing the door. True. Watch for long drawstrings and loose clothing that may get caught in the handrail, fire extinguisher, or bus doors. Number 8, it is not necessary to check the mirrors before departing a bus stop. False. Make sure all students are well away from the bus before driving off. Also, check for late students who may be running toward the bus. Use all mirrors to check the danger zones. 9, students that are crossing should be as close to the front of the bus as possible. False. When students are crossing, they should be 10 to 15 feet in front of the bus to enable the driver to see all students clearly. Number 10, before leaving the driver's seat, pull on the parking brake knob. True. This is our pea soup method. Pull the parking brake knob out, shift to neutral, turn the engine off, turn the ignition on, pump, push, and pull every time you exit the bus. Thank you for watching this presentation on student counts for safety and rollaway prevention.